Hello, my name is Kimberly Brown Harden, and I'm the Northwest Regional Coordinator of the Professional Development Office of the Indiana State Library. I'd like to welcome you to the Professionalism in the Workplace webinar. This is what we'll cover today. We're going to start out with an activity. We'll talk about what is professionalism. We'll talk about workplace conversations. Talk about to work or not to work. Welcome to the library, and then we'll have a short wrap up. Now I'd like to start off with a short cartoon. As you can see in this clip here, we have someone working at the library is helping someone who is clearly anti-library. His sandwich board says, "Libraries waste your money," and "Say no to libraries." But I'd like you to think about the times that you've had to help someone whose values, ideas, and opinions were different from yours. Hopefully you handled it courteously and professionally. If not, hopefully this webinar will give you tips, tools, or just a gentle reminder about being professional in the workplace. Now let's begin. So generally when I give this presentation in person, we use the following scenarios as a group discussion. These scenarios are fictional, but they deal with current hot topics in the news. Please feel free to pause the video after each scenario so you can have a meaningful discussion. Scenario number 1. An Iranian couple is visiting your library. While there, some of your regular patrons are screaming racial slurs at them and telling them they're a threat to the United States and they're ISIS. One of the regular patrons is a prominent citizen and a passionate library supporter. What do? So you can pause the recording now to discuss. Right. Welcome back. Scenario number 2. Jessica was getting copies off the printer and she noticed her name was in an email. It was between Jessica's supervisor, Chloe, and her boss, Amy. Amy referred to Jessica as lazy and said she doesn't want to work. Jessica is a hard worker and she was truly devastated. What should Jessica do? You can now pause the recording. Okay, scenario number 3. You hear a coworker and his friend talk about a patron who frequents the library. It is well known around town that the person is bipolar and he often goes off on his medication. You hear the words crazy, weirdo, and lunatic in the conversation. This conversation bothers you because you don't think a staff member should talk to a patron about another patron, and you don't know if other patrons are listening. What should you do? Pause the recording now to discuss. Scenario number 4. You have a transgender patron who visits your library often. A patron starts to bully and harass them. The transgender patron is terrified and hurt. What should be done? Pause the recording now to discuss. And our last scenario, scenario number 5. In the staff lounge, there is a heated argument about how your congressman voted on a particular bill. Some staff agreed with the vote, while other staff are asking how anyone could have voted for him. Voices are being raised and the conversation is not constructive. Is there anything you can do to diffuse the situation? Pause the recording now to discuss. All right, now that you have an opportunity to think about some scenarios and discuss them, we'll talk about what professionalism is. So, what is professionalism? What do you think about professionalism? And what does that mean for you? Professionalism is important. It retains customers and patrons. It can help to establish support, goodwill, credibility for your library. Professionalism is the conduct aims, or qualities that characterize or mark a profession or professional person. The following of a profession as athletics for gain or livelihood. Professionalism is also the level of excellence or competence that is expected of a professional. So how does this relate to librarians and library professionals? I believe that both can be applied to our profession. Patrons view us as specialists and professionals while asking for advice on how to fill out an application, the latest book to read, legal forms, etc. I'd like to add an unofficial definition or opinion about professionalism. Professionalism is less a matter of what professionals actually do and more of a matter of who they are as human beings. Think about this for a moment. Do you tend to agree or disagree with that statement? So, are you a professional? Professional. Of, relating to, or characteristic of a profession. Engaged in one of the learned professions. Characterized by or conforming to the technical or ethical standards of a professional. Exhibiting a courteous, conscientious, and generally businesslike manner in the workplace. So since we are in the library profession, every one of us is considered a professional, no matter our title or position. From directors to pages, we are all professionals and should conduct ourselves in a professional manner. This doesn't mean being stuffy or not enjoying your time at work. It does mean being polite, courteous, and displaying manners to patrons, co-workers, and staff. So unprofessional, not conforming to the standards of a profession, contrary to the accepted code of conduct of a profession. It's not professional. It's the opposite of professional. Not pertaining to or characteristic of a profession. Not belonging to a profession. Non-professional. Not done with professional competence. It's at variance with or contrary to professional standards or ethics. Not befitting members of a profession as language, behavior, or conduct. Do you know anyone that fits this definition? Do you? What other examples or definitions could you use to describe someone who's unprofessional? Professionalism in the library in two parts. We've all had days when we felt we were not as professional as we should be. An angry patron makes us respond in kind. Too much work and too few hours in the day can send us to our breaking point some days. Professionalism can work both ways, patron and staff. In order to get and provide professional service, both the patron and the staff member have the responsibility of being professional. We have always been told that the customer is always right, but the customer or patron has the duty to act professionally as well. If this is not the case, address it immediately with your supervisor or manager to develop a plan of action or policy if there isn't one currently. Appearance. Image is what we project. I'd like for you to take a look at these outfits. Would these be considered proper work attire? Library staff have the distinct advantage of being able to dress casually and reflect the communities we serve. In some circumstances, you may want to wear a suit. Like it or not, the way we dress and carry ourselves contribute to the professional image we present. There's a saying that goes, dress for the job you want, not for the job you have. Professional rule number 1. If you have to think about whether something is appropriate to wear to work, it probably isn't, and you should wear something else. Apply the grandma rule. Would she approve of what you're wearing? Part 2, workplace conversations. Okay, I admit I've been guilty of some inappropriate conversation at the reference desk. And I've also heard some conversations in the library as a patron that I couldn't believe, and it made me take a closer look at myself. So let's talk about ethics. Ethics is the social principles, goals, or standards held or accepted by an individual, a class, a society, culture, etc. Every profession and group operates by ethics. Ethics are social standards shared by a group. Ethical dilemmas occur when values are in conflict. Does your library operate by a code of ethics? In our profession, the ALA, or the American Library Association, has a code of ethics. So part of being a professional is behaving ethically. Ethics means something more than law and morals. It carries an additional connotation of rightness. Breaking the law can earn a fine or jail time. Breaking a moral can ruin your reputation. Breaking an ethic can ruin your conscience. It's possible to break all three simultaneously. Morals. Morals are concerning or relating to what is right and wrong in human behavior. It's based on what you think is right and good. It's considered right and good by most people, agreeing with the standard of right behavior. Morals are personal opinions and beliefs. When working in a library, remember that we encounter people with different beliefs and opinions. We must remember we don't have to agree, but we're not there to argue or debate them either, especially in the workplace. Code of conduct. Code of conduct is an agreement on rules of behavior for a group or organization. It's a set of conventional principles and expectations that are considered binding on any person who is a member of a particular group. So now let's shift and talk about appropriate workplace conversations. So I'll pose this with a couple of questions. Why should some topics be avoided at work? And what topics should be avoided at work? So it used to be that people would avoid controversial topics in public, such as religion, politics, and money. Now it seems as if any topic is open for debate. When dealing with patrons, remember that the public recognizes and values the library's neutrality. You can give friendly, welcoming service without getting personal. Try to avoid non-work related discussions while in the public view. Remember, conversation on desk is inviting a patron to be involved. When dealing with staff, remember that you must be as respectful of their opinions as with the public. Many topics are personal, heated, and affect how work can be done in the workplace. Many people cannot separate their personal beliefs from getting the work done. And it's understandable that personal relationships can form between coworkers. And if your friendship allows the open discussion of these topics, that's okay. However, be sure to avoid discussing them in public view or around coworkers who may hold different views or don't want to hear them. Avoid gossiping about your coworkers. This type of behavior can be contagious and contribute to an unhealthy workplace. Some other topics to be avoided at work are personal issues such as dates, child support, spousal problems, money problems, and discussions about a particular employee. Remember, any conversation that you have on desk or in a public area is inviting the patron to be involved, either directly or indirectly. Inappropriate language. In a recent survey, 40% of business owners say they swear on the job, even though 80% believe it is unprofessional. So here are some borderline words: suck, crap, gay, retarded, pissed, ticked. A suck is one of those generational words. People my age use it all the time, but some grandparents or parents may find it repulsive. Can you think of any other words that you use that may be offensive to someone that you use regularly? Professional rule number 2. If you have to think whether a word or subject is appropriate for work, it probably isn't and should be saved for a time away from the library. So, just wanted to give you a little short mental break. Is anyone's mind here right now? Nice beach, relaxing, looking at the waters. Ah, yes. So now let's talk about unprofessional behavior. Unprofessional behavior is behaviors that threaten positive and productive relations with other people. Constitutes uncivil behavior. You can be uncivil without meaning to. For instance, you simply assume that what's acceptable in one social context, at the bar or at home, is acceptable in your current work environment. Civility represents the social norms and rules that must be followed in order to positively and productively relate with others. When people hear the word civility, words that come to mind include respect, courtesy, tolerance, consideration, and a rational approach to conflicts. Conduct that could be characterized as harassment or discrimination. Unprofessional behavior also includes verbal threats of violence, retribution, or lawsuits, includes verbal outbursts, inappropriate physical touching or contact, arguing in front of customers, clients, and families. It also includes physical actions that threaten others, such as throwing or knocking down objects. It includes insults, verbal comments, or criticism intended to belittle or berate others. Now, it wouldn't be fair if we held patrons to a different standard than ourselves. We must remember that in order to maintain a level of professional behavior, patrons must also interact at a similar standard. Behavior issues should be addressed immediately, lest they grow into bigger problems. Emotional triggers. Emotional triggers are something that sets off a memory or flashback, transporting a person back to their event of trauma. One of the many wonders of your brain is how masterfully it rationalizes your behavior. Something occurs, you react, and then your brain instantly concocts a reason for your reaction that seems to justify your behavior, even if the reason makes no sense. For example, you get very angry because you can't find a report you were working on. You blame the company for giving you insufficient space, the cleaners for moving things around your desk, or your boss for giving you a stupid task or deadline. Here are some steps to deal with emotional triggers. 1. Accept responsibility for your reactions. 2. Recognize that you are having an emotional reaction as soon as it begins to appear. 3. Determine what triggered the emotion. 4. Choose what you want to feel and what you want to do. 5. Actively shift your emotional state. And you can do this by relax, breathe, and release the tension in your body. Detach, clear your mind of all thoughts. Center, drop your awareness to the center of your body. And finally, focus. Choose one key word that represents how you want to feel in this moment. Breathe in the word and allow yourself to feel the shift. And if you do nothing or remember nothing, please try to remember to breathe. That is the most important thing. When you feel that you need to take a moment, just stop and take a nice deep breath in before you handle a response. Part 3, how to work or not to work. What are some activities that could be work or not work depending on how you use them? Email, Facebook, Twitter, books, magazines, talking with coworkers and patrons. So when you are on the clock, you need to be ready when your shift starts and be on time for meetings. You want to work until the job is done. Don't hand off to coworkers and don't close the library early. Sometimes you are caught up and you can ask if there are ongoing projects that you can work on. And you can also look for professional development opportunities. You can look through professional journals, look through webinars, Twitter chats, etc. Timesheets. Lying on timesheets is a form of theft. Try to keep them up to date daily and have them available to supervisors when they ask for them. Talking at public service desks. You want to keep it short and work related. And remember, everything we do or say means something to the patron. We need to be attentive to the patrons and not neglectful. Patrons, for the most part, are quietly working, and when we talk, they certainly listen. Always remember, keep personal issues separate from the workplace. Remember that patrons are watching. One thing I've learned from spending a lot of time in libraries over the years is that patrons are supposed to whisper and respect the right of others to read or study quietly. An Indiana library may be the noisiest I've ever experienced, and it's because of the library staff. Someone should teach them to whisper. They are equally loud whether they are checking out books, making personal telephone calls, or gossiping about their colleagues. Does everyone really need to know who they went to dinner with last night? Respect your customers. Keep the noise down. This is from a letter to the editor, August 31st of 2010. So be aware of your surroundings. Be quiet in a quiet area. And if you have to let off steam, go to a location away from patrons. Develop a policy with coworkers to handle desk coverage when you need to take care of a phone call or when you need to let off a little steam. Professional rule number 3. If you have to think whether the activity you are doing would be considered work, it probably isn't. Part 4, representing the library. You are the face of the library. Patrons don't differentiate between director, librarian, clerk, or page. Everybody is just their librarian. They want your help and your attention. Try and help them to the best of your ability. Welcome to the library. So, what can you do to make someone feel welcome? It is so simple. Smile in greeting to every person who enters your library. Even if you are helping someone, smile and greet them. If you aren't with a patron, ask if you can help. Remember, we don't have to like our patrons to help them. Which do you think your patrons would like more? If you're doing a search for someone, or if the computers are slow, talk to your patron. Let them know what you're doing, where you are searching, and why they are waiting. Be friendly and approachable. Start each transaction with fresh enthusiasm. Be friendly, put the patron at ease, and be willing to help. Remember, finding the right answer and teaching valuable search skills creates a patron for life. Good patron service starts with you. Public service is more than getting an answer and getting the patron out of the library and away from your desk. So let's talk about places you represent, in person and around town. Be sure you are ready to help a customer at any time while at the library. If you live in a smaller community and your patrons will see you out at the grocery store, if you're out and about, you can't always help them, but invite them to come into one of your locations during regular business hours. On the telephone, often the first contact a person has is with the library. You want to speak slowly, clearly, and with a smile. Always offer to call someone back. Don't ask them to call you. And if you have to use the speakerphone, always ask before putting them on speakerphone. You represent the library at meetings and conferences, online, and listservs. And everyone on the list can see your post. Listservs are archived, and if you have a disclaimer, sometimes that is not enough. Employers will sometimes look through listservs, the archives to the listservs, so keep that in mind. Also, you represent your library through email. Remember, emails can be forwarded, edited, because there is no face-to-face or even voice contact. It's difficult to really understand what the email writer is trying to say. Diamonds last forever. Remember, email does too. Try to send routine information only. Do not email when angry, emotional, etc. Remember, think about before you hit reply all. Think before sending jokes. And sometimes some topics are better face-to-face, such as if you're needing to offer criticism or if you're trying to share sensitive information. And places you represent your library is social networking. There's an example here on the right where someone posted that they hate their job, but they forgot that they were friends with their boss, so their boss saw the post. So avoid venting about patrons, coworkers, administration, your salary, policies, etc. Think about being friends with your patrons and coworkers. I have a colleague who sometimes she's mentioned that she has separate accounts for some people that she works with and some people that she meets out in the field. She has a separate account. She has a professional Facebook account and then she has a personal. So please keep these things in mind. Professional rule number 4. If it's ever been posted or transmitted electronically, assume it is forever. Think before you hit send, submit, or post. Emails, tweets, posts, etc. can be archived and saved for permanent record. Professionalism and respect for your workplace. You have the right to your opinion, but express it in private. Don't complain about your job while you're on the desk. Take concerns about policies or procedures to your supervisor in private. Do not let it fester. It is okay to disagree with library policies. It is not okay to voice these disagreements in public or not follow proper procedures. I don't think I know anyone who has ever agreed with every policy at a workplace. Again, it is okay to take these concerns to a supervisor, but it looks bad when people discuss these issues in public or out on the desk. What can also happen is some people or locations simply don't follow the procedures and it makes the entire system look bad. It shows that the library is not a cohesive unit. It also can confuse patrons, and there is a chance of differential treatment between staff and locations. You want to show professionalism and respect for your coworkers. You want to praise assistance and innovation. Use the golden rule. Listen to each other. Recognize their expertise. And try to keep socializing to appropriate places and times. Again, not at the service desk or in front of patrons. You want to have professionalism and respect for yourself. Dress and speak professionally, and you will be treated professionally. As I stated earlier, dress for the job you want. You dress for the library you want too. Remember, please and thank you aren't just for preschoolers. Work until the job is done. Be available. Your duty ends when the answer is found, not when your shift on the desk ends or when the library is about to close. Accept all requests for help when you are in a public area, on the desk, in the elevator, or walking in the door. If you are in the building, you are on duty. Try to make every effort to find the right answer quickly for each patron. If you cannot complete the search right away, you should discuss with the patron what you have found and what you will continue to do. Make plans to call them back right away. Keep the patron's needs in mind. Listen to yourself. Think about why you are feeling or thinking what you are. Listen to how you express yourself. Figure out why and how you can grow professionally as well as personally. And finally, professionalism and respect for your patrons. Reminder, keep your complaints away from the service desk and away from your patrons. Remember that trust breeds trust. A lot of times when patrons are talking to us, they are looking, searching for things. We want to keep confidentiality in mind. You want to listen to your patrons. Build relationships. Be approachable and protect their privacy. Again, you want to never, ever complain about patrons where anyone can hear you. It's unprofessional and it is unwelcoming, and you never know who is listening. Yes, you might have waited until Mr. Jones left your area, but you might not realize that his wife is standing next to you, soaking in every nasty thing you are saying. Further, we don't want those who inadvertently hear you vent to worry that you will do the same thing when they leave your library. So now we're wrapping it up. And just remember that meticulous adherence to undeviating courtesy, honesty, and responsibility in one's dealings with customers and associates, plus a level of excellence that goes over and above the commercial considerations and legal requirements. So basically, you want to do above and beyond. You want to create the culture. Do you want negativity or enthusiasm? Do you want whispered complaints or honest discussion? Criticism or praise? Distrust or trust? Do you want to drag everyone down or rise to the challenge? Do you want competition or collaboration? Do you want to just get it done and get them gone? Or do you want to build relationships? There's a quote by Abraham Lincoln that says, "Most folks are about as happy as they make up their minds to be." You create the culture you want to work in. Have you noticed that even after staff changes, the general culture of the library stays the same? It is a collective mindset, a pattern that we fall into. It takes a conscious effort to break free of that culture and move toward a more desirable one. So I want to just thank you for listening today. Please visit our continuing education website for more webinars, as well as our in-person training menu. And that can be found at www.in.gov/continued.isl.in.gov find training. And thank you again for listening today.